So today we're talking about stress, and we're going to be talking about a couple different aspects of stress. One, how the traditional way you probably see stress management is not useful. And that way is thinking that stress management takes too much time, isn't worth it. And we're going to change that mentality by learning the second step, which is seeing stress as a skill that you can practice and have fun at. And then third, we're actually going to get into the nitty-gritty of how you can practice stress management as a skill and become proficient at it and actually gain momentum in decreasing stress in a real, tangible way. The biggest problem, before we get into this whole video, if you do like it, if you do have a thumbs up, go ahead and do it throughout any time of the video. I really appreciate it. Or a comment, a suggestion. There's going to be an exercises throughout this video, so stay tuned. Let's just dive into this right now, though. The traditional way I see stress, this is not just you out there, but me. I grew up in frickin' this culture. I'm in Silicon Valley. If you look over my shoulder, there's Oracle behind me. I know you can't see it, there's trees, but trust me, that's Oracle behind me. And in this culture, productivity is everything. Productivity is usually stressful. You got to go to meetings and work and concentrate and, you got to do stuff. And our culture values productivity, and it's great. There's a lot of benefits to productivity, like clothing and so forth, and technology, blah, blah, blah. We all value being productive, and it's great. A consequence of valuing productivity is that for me, oftentimes I will disregard stress management. I say, oh, that's not useful. I don't have enough time for that. Stress management is seen and perceived and felt as something that's just not worth it. And the heart of this is believing that productivity is everything. It is everything. And it's just not true. Now, in addition to that mindset being false, productivity being everything is false. It's important, but it's not everything. The flip side, that self-care management, that stress management, that taking time for yourself to decrease stress, that is oftentimes neglected. It's seen as not valuable. It's seen as ineffective or minuscule progress where maybe you do a little stress management, it takes your stress down 1%, but the time you invest in stress management isn't worth the decrease in stress that you get. So you might spend 10 minutes, meditating or walking, and your stress goes down by 2%, and you're like, well, that 10 minutes I could have been spent working where I've got a lot better ROI, so to speak, return on investment. So stress management is just seen as not worth it. This is the fundamental problem. Stress management is seen as ineffective, not worth the time investment, versus productivity, which is hailed as the be-all, end-all, and and the time investment is worth it. So it comes down to a matter of time, and there's no way around it if we're stuck in this paradigm. So we're going to shift the paradigm away from stress management being time-oriented and shifting it to be skill-oriented. This is like going from the earth is flat to the earth is round. It's a big paradigm shift, and I can't even explain all the implications of it, except that I get very excited about it. The first thing I want to kind of explore this paradigm shift with you before. In a couple minutes, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how you can apply and practice, quote unquote, practice and improve and grow your abilities and natural strengths to stress management. We're going to get into that in just a little bit, but first, understanding stress as a skill. What does that even mean? The basic premise is that with effort, this is effort, with effort and focus, you can grow, I'm flexing right now if you're listening to the podcast. You can grow your attentional muscles. The basic thing, this comes from my background in meditation. I love meditation. I'm not going to say that you need to meditate, but there's fascinating research which shows brain scans of people when they meditate that within 8 weeks, there's a link down below to a study by the University of Wisconsin-Madison where they measure people's brains. They have them meditate for 8 weeks. It's not like 8 weeks straight. It's just like a couple minutes a day, like an hour a day or something like that. And the matter in their brain, the gray matter in their brain is noticeably different in a good way that suggests emotional control. It suggests perspective taking. It suggests stress resilience in just 8 weeks. So there is science that says if you flex and practice your attentional muscles are your mind. If you use your mind, then you can improve your stress resilience. Okay? As I say this right now, I'm realizing that stress management often seems like you're decreasing stress, right? Like you're incredibly stressed out, too overwhelmed, so you need to go invest 30 minutes or 40 minutes taking a hot bath to calm down because you're about to have a panic attack. Although that might work in extreme cases, the minuscule amounts of stress that you face on a daily basis, you have no tools to deal with that. It's like you're either too stressed out and you need to take a vacation, or you're on vacation and have no stress. There's a gray area where there's moderate amounts of stress, and this is where the skills of having stress skills really come in handy, because you can use your mind. You don't have to take a bath. You don't have to spend 30 or 40 or 50 minutes taking a bath or going on a walk. You can use your mind in the moment to deal with the stress as it comes up. So this saves you time, and it prevents you from getting overwhelmed with so much stress. In terms of meditation, what this might mean, I remember learning this paradigm years ago when I was, this was my first Vipassana retreat. I was age 18. I was a young guy getting into my meditation groove. And I was coming from a background of very logical, very organized family, just very education-oriented, and our very limited emotional expression. So I was in the, as they would say, the left side of my brain and not in the right side of my brain. The left side is logical, analytical, math. The right side of my brain is like English, feelings, emotions. And because I lived entirely in my left brain, and that is possible, by the way, I had, when people would ask me how I felt, or I was so disconnected from my emotions. I would never cry. I would never miss people. I was, I just was thinking all the time, thinking and thinking all the time. I could not feel my body. And I was on Vipassana retreat, and the guy said, every thought has an emotional energy in your body. So when you think about the deadline that's coming up at work, and you think, how you experience that thought, if you become open to it and you learn to practice, if you learn about the emotional energy thing, you'll also start to perceive that there's an energy in your body related to the thought about a deadline. And the Vipassana teacher, he said, listen, we can evaporate with awareness emotional energy, but we cannot do that with thoughts. When you try to think about a thought, it sometimes spirals out of control, and you just end up ruminating and worrying about the worst outcomes. But he says, if we can shift and notice how the emotional energy of the thought, notice that in our body, then we can using awareness and some different techniques I'll show you in a little bit. I'll show you some of these techniques and also self-care and how you can link self-care to these activities. But the main thing is that if you deal with your feelings, the stress will go down. Now, you might be thinking, oh, okay, you're just telling me to deal with my feelings, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I've been told that before. You're just telling me to deal with my feelings. And no, I am telling you that, but I'm not telling you to deal with your feelings. I'm telling you to practice the skill of shifting out of your thinking and into your body. Just like what the people did when they meditated for 8 weeks. Their gray matter improved. They were able to shift more quickly into their body, so they didn't spend as much time in their head going on random trains of thought projecting worse outcome scenarios. They're able to shift from that thinking into their body more quickly. That's what the gray matter represents. Not only that, but that they could handle more intense feelings. So what this means is, like, for example, I've practiced meditation. I've probably put in a couple thousand hours. And I have grown my ability to focus. So when I first started, I couldn't really focus that well. And years later, hours later, I can focus a lot better. Just the other day, I'm not trying to brag here, but I just was able to get a nice rhythmic state and breathe, and I was pretty thoughtless. And not that you have to be thoughtless when you meditate, but that I was able to concentrate on right here underneath my nose. I was able to do that for a while. And before, I would have had all these thoughts, and not only that, my thoughts would have disturbed me. The other day, I had the same thoughts. Like, I'm still thinking. It's just I'm not bothered by them. It's the difference of getting a lot of sleep. If you get a lot of sleep, just things don't bother you as much. And when we practice flexing our attentional muscles, when we practice flexing and using our stress skills, when we practice shifting out of our thinking and into our feelings, we get better at it. So instead of just dealing with your feelings, it's about shifting into them. And there's a few useful concepts. So we're now getting into the nitty-gritty. I think you can understand how, if you shift from your thinking into your body, that your brain changes as a result of this. When you are only in your left brain and then you start using some different brain muscles, your brain grows. Science has proven that. So I'm going to assume that we understand that this practice of shifting from thinking into feeling grows our brain. And when we grow our brain, we manage stress differently. It's like we get more sleep. And the benefits of this is that this can be done in the moment. You don't have to invest a lot of time. And while I don't want to lie to you and say that this will happen overnight, there is tremendous hope that you can improve at this, that you can practice this every time you get stressed out. You have it within you. This is the enlightenment. This is the you have it within you mentality. So instead of just dealing with your stress, which, if we're being honest, it's just lame to talk about it that way, because everyone's stressed out. It's not like your stress is ever going to go away. Dealing with stress, like what does that practically mean? Well, hopefully now I'm going to talk about how some practical things, what we can do to practice and grow our brain matter in daily circumstances. And these are going to play off the whole shifting analogy. So the first thing we do is, as we shift into our body, there's a couple powerful things. And depending on the day, I might give you a different framework, but this one comes straight from the intuitive eating certification program that I'm currently in. And it's a wonderful program led by Evelyn Resch and Elise, and I'm touched by it. And the beautiful thing is that this is highly effective for stress eating. Okay, so how it goes is you first have to notice that you're stressed. So this is a skill. Noticing that you're stressed is a skill. Oftentimes you only notice you're stressed out when you're really stressed out. But if you can start picking up, there's like a gradual curve. So just to explain this real quick, have you ever been at a stoplight and had to slam on your brakes? Your stress just booms up to 1,000. That's an abnormal circumstance. In our society, in our technological society today, we're bombarded by distractions and notifications and emails, and we're always on. And that creates a chronic low-grade stress that most people are not aware of physically in their body. So a skill that you can work on is noticing how this chronic low-grade stress feels in your body. Okay? That's step one. You can notice that when you're driving to work. You can notice that while at work. Noticing where it is in your body. And this is a two-part skill, because the next part is something that will grow over time for you. But it's where you you start getting out of your head, getting out of thinking, and you start trying to get into your body. And for me, when I first started doing this, it was very confusing. It was like I was staring into fog. It was like I was trying to find my way in a dark room. I didn't know where I was going. I was like, I'd tune into my body and I think, is this what I'm supposed to feel? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? I'd try to feel my body, but I felt incompetent at it. I felt that not enough progress was being made. I felt confused. And this is pretty typical, especially because the thoughts it's just a different world. Thoughts are logical and feelings are more ambiguous. But while you're driving to work, say, and you notice this chronic low-grade stress, just a little bit of stress. Maybe you get an email. And so instead of just working away at that email, you take a moment. You just notice how you feel. You just notice where you feel any tension in your body. And a common place where there's tension in the body is your jaw. Your jaw might be tense, or maybe your shoulders are tense. So as you shift into your body, you might notice that you're holding tension in your neck, your shoulders, and you feel your body. You feel your body. And here's what's going to be great, because I'm not going to say to relax. I'm not going to say to relax, and I'm not going to say to squeeze your muscles or anything like that. I'm actually going to ask you to rate the intensity of your feelings. So if you start noticing you're stressed out, there's tension. If you rate the intensity of your feelings, say your boss yells at you and you feel overwhelmed, and that's a 10. On the other hand, maybe you get some emails and you're kind of bothered by them, but you're not too bothered. That's like a 6 or a 4 or whatever. So you notice your stress, and then you notice how intense the feelings are. These are all skills that you can apply each day that take up almost zero time. You can do them throughout your day, and keep a long-term outlook in mind. Your ability to withstand stress will improve over time, but it's not going to be this like, 1 month has gone by and I'm magically better. It's going to take practice, but the good thing is that you can practice without any time. So, to continue on, there were 3 steps just to recap. One was noticing where in your body, and then noticing how intense it is. So instead of just saying becoming aware of stress, we're now developing language around it. Where do you feel the stress? How intense is it? Okay? Now, the next thing is there's going to be a picture down below, or a worksheet, which you can also just download. That picture is going to give you a bunch of emotions, right? So anger, stress, disgust, happiness, joy. We want to develop emotional language. So let's say you feel tension in your body. Say it's around your heart area. You want to then, this is a skill that you develop, you want to be able to develop language to identify what you're feeling. This is where we're going. This is the fundamental skill of stress management. You notice what you're feeling, and with clarity. Sometimes you might go into your body, I know I've done this, and you feel stuff, but you're not sure what you're feeling. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes compassion. You will get better at understanding your feelings as you practice shifting out of your body and shifting out of your head and into your body. You will start to understand how and what precise emotion you're feeling, and you'll understand the intensity, and you'll understand the where it's at in your body. So it all starts by noticing where it's at in your body. As you get a map of your body, you can then begin to decipher the intensity of the emotion and the the actual emotion. Okay, so these are nuanced skills. Like, these are nuanced skills, all right? But I'm actually giving you, this is how you do it. It's like piano. I used to play piano. And these are like sequences of thought and action that if you practice, you get better at it. You just click into your body and boom, you know what you're feeling. And after you know what you're feeling, the second part of the worksheet, as you can see down below, there's 4 elements of self-care, 4 categories of self-care. There's a distraction, dealing with the feeling directly, and there's some other categories below as well, like support and so forth. Feeling good. So those are the 4. And what you do is you're going to start practicing self-care, but it's rooted in how you feel. So let's say you feel sad, let's say you feel upset, maybe you're feeling undervalued, and you feel that wherever you feel it in your body. It could be your shoulders or your heart or your jaw. And you're able to identify that emotion. You're able to identify the intensity of the emotion. And then you practice self-care. You practice maybe distracting yourself. So in general, the reason we rate the intensity is because, let's say you're 7 intensity or above, you might need to practice 2 self-care things. If you're at 7 or below, maybe you just need to practice 1. Okay, but I time that people say, oh, my stress, like I tried self-care. It didn't work. Well, guess what? There's 4 different categories of self-care. Try a different category. Try something each day. Try something new. Okay, so you're feeling stressed out. Try something new. Get into the emotion. Try to practice an element of self-care, and see if it goes down. If it doesn't work, practice a different self-care activity. Okay, so you're gonna need to practice this. There's no way around it. This is a skill that you develop. And then lastly, if there are going to be times when you feel too stressed out, and self-care will not make your feelings go away. You might need to practice 1 or 2 self-care things, and even then your feelings might not go away. And that's when we need to have compassion for ourselves. Instead of calling ourselves weak, we need to understand that, for example, the Dalai Lama, who's been exiled from his country, who's seen his brethren killed, his friends die, he's able to withstand this pressure and stress because he's practiced this so many times. As you practice this, your ability to resist stress will grow. In the beginning, and maybe even for months or years to come, depending on how much you have to grow the emotional parts of your brain, you might get overwhelmed. And that's okay. It takes, you've come this far in life, and you're going to be okay. You might get overwhelmed now, but that doesn't mean you failed at self-care. There is no failing. By practicing, you will improve. The criteria of success is that you practiced. You don't need to make all your negative emotions go away for you to practice self-care. And if you think that you need to totally reduce your stress in order to be successful or effective, then we're in for a hard time, because it's going to take time to grow these muscles. So with that being said, leave a comment, try this out for yourself. Let me know what you think. Have a good one. Peace.